Welcome to Brainstorms. I'm Anna Tizard, award-winning dreampunk and deeply weird fantasy author, and yes, that's me and my fiction that's deeply weird. Explore and imagine with me the most unexpected story ideas using the surrealist word game of Exquisite Corpse. Find out more and join in at annatizard.com. This is a storytelling challenge unlike anything you've tried before. Hello, imaginative people. I'm Anna Tizard, and this is episode 59 of Brainstorms. In the last show, before the usual rounds of Exquisite Corpse, I talked a bit about tapping into the mysteries of the unconscious mind and how writing can be a process of discovery as you find connections between things that you'd not been aware of or not thought of before. Well, writing in the discovery way is a kind of dance between conscious and unconscious thoughts, and the brainstorming stage is at once a sort of letting go and an active seeking, a playfulness and a problem solving. So much of writing is problem solving because you're never going to have an entire complex story idea appear in your mind all at once, with the characters fully formed, the inciting incident, how it develops, climax, resolution. We start with little flashes of ideas, and the rest comes in fits and starts, often as we write, sometimes as we clean our teeth, I've found, or in the shower. That's quite a good daydreaming space. But I've been thinking about how often it feels like you're turning a wrong into a right with stories, turning a mistake or an injustice into something that feels like it was meant to be, turning a problem into a solution. This is ultimately what a story is made up of: conflict, tension, wrongness, things going wrong for the protagonist, and a struggle to make things right. Or it may be that something doesn't quite make sense in the beginning. It's a mystery to be solved, and that's the form of wrongness that is to be righted. It's funny how these sorts of things, sort of theoretical or conceptual things, can crop up in all art forms. In my hometown of Brighton in the UK, there's a huge mural I've gone past on the bus dozens of times of this big face painted in shades of blue on a wall along a side street. Deep, arresting eyes, curling horns, and just a touch of a smile. One day, when I went past on the bus, I gasped when I saw that someone, a lesser graffiti artist, had spray painted a ginger moustache on it overnight, 2 rough lines uncurling either side. Gutted. The picture was ruined. Or was it? A couple of days later, I was on the same bus route and I glanced up just in time to notice that the original artist, well, I have to assume that it was, had been back to transform those 2 offending lines into a full lush moustache, complete with ginger and sandy blonde highlights in the mix. It was as if the artist had said, "Okay, you want to give him a moustache? Now I'm going to give him a moustache." It wasn't just the artistry that had me staring in wonder until I almost strained my neck with the bus moving on. It was the attitude. To be an artist that playful, that creative and spontaneous, that you can turn something ugly and so wrong into something so right. And as storytellers, we take what is wrong and turn it into something right. Conflict, injustice, or a feeling of dread forms the starting point of a character's journey, with the promise to resolve their problems, for better or worse, and things are likely to get worse first. And the best bit is really when the resolution isn't quite what you were expecting. From the reader's perspective, it makes the journey all the more worth it that you couldn't have predicted it yourself. And on a smaller scale, An Exquisite Corpse presents us with a bizarre, very wrong-sounding sentence. It's our job to make it right, to find an order inherent in it, a pattern, a rightness. But in doing so, in finding our way from nonsense to story sense, we become playful, adaptable storytellers, taking our imaginative skills to the next level. And perhaps painting a proverbial ginger moustache to make the wrongness right again. But before we begin a new round or 3 of Exquisite Corpse, let's hear what my highly imaginative and adaptive listeners have made of a writing prompt from the last show. Now, the writing prompt I invited feedback on last time was the quivering silhouette. And I liked this word combination in particular because it feels like it hints at so many potential different things. And I did, in fact, get some very different answers, as you'd expect. Jan Miklazovic said, "Your silhouette betrays your innermost feeling, be it jumping for joy or quivering with anxiety. You're nothing but a shadow puppet, baby, easy as reading a book." And I commented to Jan that it's beginning to feel like lyrics to a song towards the end of that, or a sort of dark, snarky narrative kind of accusing someone. And Jan replied, if you'd like further inspiration for where that one could go, maybe listen to a song called Crossroads by Tom Waits or William Burroughs. I did, and it's a rather dark kind of existential narrative wound into a song. A very interesting way to approach a story with the narrator talking directly to you. And it gives a very strong sense of this character when they're talking to you. Thank you for sharing this with us, Jan. It's very curious. A slight trigger warning for the next one, because this is rather dark. Nick Vrekar said, she had gone to an upscale party, a strange and unfamiliar place. She stepped away, and across the balcony, she saw the silhouettes of a couple in a far room. They were still for a moment until one began to quiver and shake, and limbs tore out, pulling the other shadow in. Yikes! You start off thinking this is like a romance or some other kind of social drama, and then something horrifying happens. And also mysterious, like what is this really about? Thank you, Nick. This is very interesting. Ev Days said, Elias sipped nervously at the water's edge, glancing all the while up to where Millicent disrobed atop a pinkish mushroom. In the moonlight, reflected on the water, he saw shimmering echoes of her quivering silhouette. Wow, that's quite beautiful. It feels very sensual and fairy-like, otherworldly. Thank you for that, Ev. And last but not least, Alessandro Bozzo said, as a detective investigates the basement of a condemned house at night, the door at the top of the stairs suddenly slams shut. She spins around, shining her flashlight in the direction of the noise. All she can see is a quivering silhouette in the flickering light of her torch. Nice and spooky, loving it. But is this a ghost or some other kind of mysterious creature? I'd love to know what happens next. Please share if you work that out, Alessandro, or anyone else listening. Right, I think it's time to find out what other new mysteries are revealed by the socks of destiny. That's right, and for those who haven't listened before or haven't played Exquisite Corpse before, the game mixes various people's entries. If you want to enter, please go to annatizard.com and click the play button. It mixes everyone's words into a sentence that goes describing word noun, action, describing word noun. So let's try for a first word from our describing word sock. This is from XID Starfields, powerful. Let's try for a noun. We got here. This is from Mariah, guitar. Ooh, I like the idea of a powerful guitar. So let's try for an action. Let's see, this is from, I can untangle it from my finger. This is from Wendy, abandoned without a care. Okay, next word, which will be another describing word. Oh, this is again from Wendy, 2 in a row. Thriving. And last word, final noun, is from Sean, also known as Blue Wizard Facts on X. Dachshund. Okay, this is extremely random, but then that's how Exquisite Corpse works. Yes, a dachshund. I did actually look this up and scribble a note on the little slip of paper when I first entered it into the sock. And because I'm a cat person, I mean, I quite like dogs. I'm just less familiar with dogs. But I thought I'd just add some context for myself and for you for when this comes out of the sock. These were bred to scent, chase and flush out badgers originally, and other burrowing animals. So they are also known as sausage dogs, the little short legs, in case you didn't already know that. I bet you do, but yeah, it's just me not necessarily knowing about different dog breeds. So let's just, I'll just read the entire Exquisite Corpse for you. So the powerful guitar, abandoned without a care, the thriving dachshund. Sorry guys, but that is kind of ridiculous. But we always begin at the point of ridiculousness, the point of wrongness, as I was talking about, and find a way to make it right. And that is why Exquisite Corpse is such a brilliant exercise for us writers, or anyone who wants to try writing or just get more experience, because it involves your puzzle solving skills, which storytelling is a kind of puzzle solving. But I tell you what, I am going to pour my green tea. This is the moment in the show where I need a tea break, and it's been brewing a little while, and I just need a little bit of inspiration. So give that a bit of a stir. Okay, let's see. Right, so the powerful guitar, abandoned without a care, the thriving dachshund. Oh dear. I mean, I do love the idea of a powerful guitar. What kind of powers might it have? To play itself? To lure someone? Or even a crowd of people? Like the Pied Piper? And the idea of a guitar abandoning this dog, the dachshund, tells me that the dog is devoted to the guitar in some way, or they are bound to each other. But I'm not sure if I can work with the guitar as a sentient being, because sometimes you've got to think outside the box a little bit, or think outside the socks a little bit. I wonder if I can be a little bit playful here and say this is about a powerful guitarist, or a guitarist who comes into possession of a powerful guitar, and then a sausage dog who somehow comes with the guitar and is then abandoned. But why? Got to work out how this all fits together, and I'm going to use the pause button, as I love to do. The music shop was quiet, although it was a Saturday, and that would change soon. The morning rays of sunshine turned dust motes over the instruments across the shop floor. Raymond rubbed his eyes, sipping hot coffee. He lived only 2 blocks away, so he was always the first one in. It was strange that a musician like himself loved silence so much in moments like this, a stark contrast to the raucous noise of last night's gig. Sleepily, a smile spreading his lips wide despite the throb in his temples, Raymond closed his eyes, recalling the moments when he stood in front of the screaming crowd, his guitar singing the melody for him, or so it seemed, as his fingers skittered over the strings with a lithe power he'd never felt before. A noise, a rustle, made his eyes flash open. What or who was that in the shop? Don't tell me we've got mice or rats, he thought, scouring the instruments lined up. A movement, a blur of brown. Raymond tiptoed around a double bass, and as he bent down to peer under the guitars resting against their stands, his jacket brushed the strings of the Irish harp behind him. Notes tinkled of fairy-like magic in the air as he found himself staring into the soft brown eyes of a silk-furred dachshund. Wait, wasn't that the dog belonging to the woman he met last night, just before he went up on stage? It all came back in a flash, but hazy around the edges, like a dream. The woman's face pressed close to his. A streak of pink-dyed hair slipped from behind her ear and tickled him on the nose, though he didn't dare move or blink. This is Geoffrey. He is my dog, very precious to me. If you take care of him tonight, he only needs somewhere to sleep and a bowl of water, I will lend you the most powerful guitar you will ever touch, and this will be the best performance of your life. Well, that's a curious beginning to play with. Who is this woman? Why would she make such a deal to test Raymond's worthiness to play a magical guitar and his trustworthiness with her dog? Where did she have to go that night? Maybe the dog is more than an ordinary dog and is in on it, a shape-shifting companion to the music witch who can assess Raymond better than she can. I like the idea of a music witch and this humble, ordinary guitarist being headhunted by one. How does his life change with this new success? What does he have to learn to get that success or continued success after the best concert of his life? I'm not sure where the abandonment of the dog comes in, because it's what the powerful guitar abandoned without a care, the thriving dachshund. I mean, how awful would it be? I've got this image in my mind suddenly. How awful would it be if the shop door jingles open with the first customer and the dog runs out into the street, straight into a busy road? And remembering his promise to the weird woman last night, Raymond dashes after him, not understanding this is all part of some kind of test of his character and worthiness. Well, I'm not sure I've exactly worked out the Exquisite Corpse as it sort of flows as a sentence, but I wouldn't have come up with any of this without that bizarre word combination. And I do like the idea of this magic-imbued guitar and a music witch whose familiar is a sausage dog. Why not? Why do cats always get these roles? I think it's time for another Exquisite Corpse. Okay, we have our first describing word, which is from Rebecca Gleisner. Brittle. Ooh, I like that. It could mean different things whether you're talking about a person or a thing. So our noun, is also from Rebecca Gleisner. We're getting 2 in a row today. Cartographer. Ooh, we haven't had anything about maps for a while. It's different. Let's try for an action. Drop this one. This is from Anonymous. Kissed. Okay. Oh, he's dreading it now. Or the cartographer should be dreading it. Another describing word from XID Wade B. Ward. Lagging. And the final noun, this is from Paul Benfield. Dragonfly. Okay, I'm just going to have some more green tea. Oh dear. Okay, so all together we have the bristle cartographer kissed the lagging dragonfly. Okay, that is weird. What stands out to me first is this lagging dragonfly. Dragonflies are fast, at least their wings have to be very fast, as with any kind of flying insect, even as they hover. But what could cause a dragonfly to lag? And how can this have significance to a brittle cartographer? An ancient map maker, someone whose many journeys across many worlds have made her brittle, breakable. Is this a kiss in the usual sense of the word, or is it a gentle touch? The brittle cartographer kissed the lagging dragonfly. I imagine a low-lit cave, an old woman hunched over parchment. She sits overlooking the broad entrance. Just outside is a garden that seems almost luminous in comparison, containing a wide, oval pond edged with reeds, where quick amber fish dart at the splosh of a frog. Birds chatter in the trees. It is the height of summer. And the mouth of the cave, it seems the opposite to the garden outside. It is night to day, the inner set against the outer, the necessary dark place where a restless mind reaches for deepest inspiration. As the cartographer holds a quill over the page, a dragonfly flickers in from the pond, a blue-green flash of hesitancy, curious. The patterns in its wings were the things that lit her eye. She hummed a tune and reached her mind into the sky, a sky so wide it couldn't hide the new lands below. For this was how the cartographer's art began to flow. In a blink, the ink, it trickled its pattern, the mountains peaking, the valleys flattened. And the dragonfly buzzed in her ear as she drew, reminding her mind as it zipped and flew that these were the places, the spaces of invention. Not all hers, for a writer with intention could discover these lands in their hands at the end of a pen. Her own thoughts were brittle as the promises unfurled. The readers, the listeners, were the ones to populate this new world. How strange. That sort of came from nowhere, and quickly too. You'll have to take my word for it, because obviously I used the pause button to great extent, but it just kind of flowed. It's very rare that I ever write poetry. Occasionally a poem may write a little of me. A mystery, how the words seem to find themselves and show me what I'm trying to say. As if the rhythm, the music of the words contains a meaning I don't yet know until my fingers touch the keyboard and find it. So just reflecting on this story idea and where you could take it next. The cartographer is a kind of muse, a demigod of inspiration to high fantasy writers. The original spark of an imagined world starts within her cave, and the storytellers, like you and me, who tune into her ideas, are the ones that fill up those worlds with characters and adventure. But this particular world she begins to draw is inspired by the shapes and patterns in a dragonfly's wing. As you and I know, the otherworldly can absolutely come from the worldly. And so it was that the brittle cartographer kissed the lagging dragonfly, although I feel like it was the other way round. And where would you take this? Maybe to you this scene is like a prelude to the story of a fantasy writer who finds that she can tune into the weird ideas of an ancient crone and meets her muse in her dreams. Do they get on? Do they argue? There's so many directions you could take this. It could be a story about writing stories. It's a story about inspiration. Definitely one worth daydreaming about. Right, I think it's time for one last Exquisite Corpse for the day. Okay. Our first describing word is from XID Iggy_RB. Smooth. Again, that could mean different things depending on whether you're talking about a person or character or an object. So our noun is from Paul Benfield, steward. So a kind of manager or supervisor of something. Right, let's try an action. This is from, again, Iggy_RB. Travelled through a mythical forest with. Interesting. Very active one. Let's try for our final describing word, which is from Wendy. Sleepy. That does kind of go with enchantment. I think of, like a long sleep, like you get in some of the old fairy tales. And our final word, our noun is from Sean, also known as Blue Wizard Facts. Kelpie. Ooh, we've had a Kelpie. Not quite sure. I think it was a few episodes ago, but I do like a Kelpie. I have to remind myself every time because I get them mixed up with Selkies, I've realised. So this is a shape-shifting spirit inhabiting lochs in Irish and Scottish folklore. They often have horse-like form but can take human form. So a very curious mythological creature, which goes with someone travelling through a mythical forest, because the entire Exquisite Corpse is the smooth steward travelled through a mythical forest with the sleepy kelpie. A smooth steward travelling through a mythical forest with a sleepy kelpie. The steward, this is surely a steward of the mythical forest. That's what he's taking care of, or what he's managing. For some reason, every time I read the words mythical forest, I'm wondering if it's the forest itself that's mythical. The usual meaning is that it's a forest full of mythical creatures, but if it's a mythical forest, but I'm not quite sure where that idea might lead. Now, why is the kelpie sleepy? It feels like a trick. Maybe it's these thoughts I've been having about a mythical forest being mythical itself. But a sleepy kelpie, maybe she's been drugged. She doesn't belong in the forest, mythical or not. She's been led, staggering away from her home of the haunted loch, and finds herself being half carried by this steward of the forest. Through squinting eyes, her eyelids so heavy she can barely lift her head, she watches his big boots striding out on the woodland floor next to her, one then the other, crunching on the broken twigs and dry leaves underfoot, next to her own bare feet. There's a lopsided rhythm to the man's walk, where every time he swings his right leg out, he lands more heavily on that side, before a lighter tread on his left. For a while, this vague idea of lopsidedness tugs its rhythm in the kelpie's head as she clings to consciousness and to his huge arm, until she catches sight of the axe hanging from his belt. Oh, her heart flutters behind her ribcage like a mad winged thing trying to get out. Why had he forced her out of the loch? Why had she been so stupid as to drink that stuff he offered to her? The delicious smell of hot chocolate, unlike anything she'd ever tasted before. Then the weight of it washing through all of her bones and muscles, as if chocolate were made of the heaviest clods of mud you might find at the bottom of the loch, which were now oozing through her slackened veins. And now, past tree after tree, a never-ending path through this alien place, until a curtain of leaves parts to the bold stripes of a circus tent. Is the steward, in fact, a collector of mythical creatures from the forest and beyond? How sinister this tale might become depends on how dark you want to take it. Should you take this challenge as a writing challenge? And maybe you should. What if this steward is actually a manager of a freak show circus? He may have started out with a group of unusual individuals who are willing to pretend to be mythological beings. Say, a woman who can hold her breath long enough to sit in a tank and pretend to be a mermaid. Outlaws who've learned to become magicians, puppeteers, making lifelike models of dwarves and pixies that they can manipulate from behind a curtain. The pay is poor, but they're content to live for now within the relative shelter of the circus. And the so-called mermaid is escaping a marriage made in hell. But the steward has taken the travelling troupe further from the main road than they'd originally anticipated, and now it seems he's struck gold. Real creatures from the stories of old. Oh, there I go rhyming again. I like this idea, but whose story is it? The kelpie is the obvious choice, but I quite fancy hearing it from the pretend mermaid's point of view. Perhaps she and the kelpie will become firm friends in time and plan their escape. I do like bizarre circuses, and this is an area I want to explore one day in a longer piece for absolute certain. So, what have we had today? A powerful guitar, a deal struck with a music witch, and a dachshund who's not what he seems. How might this situation pan out for a budding musician? A map maker whose dreams inspire world-building fantasy authors. And an evil travelling circus master whose freak show is about to take on some truly mythical new members. But what word combination shall I suggest for your feedback? I think the brittle cartographer has some potential to mean all sorts of things. What if the form of cartography itself is brittle, like a dying art form or a dying magic? What could that lead to? Let me know your thoughts. You only need to post a couple of sentences to describe an idea or a setting or a character that pops into your head when you hear brittle cartographer. Give it a go. Just go to annatizard.com and hit the contact button on the page footer on any page. And so, until next time, go forth and be inspired. I hope you enjoyed today's brainstorm. You can find out more about Exquisite Corpse and my series, The Book of Exquisite Corpse, at annatizard.com. Subscribe to my e-newsletter and you'll get Volume 1 for free. And while you're there, why not submit a few words to the Socks of Destiny on my play page? You may inspire me or inspire yourself to write a unique new story. See you next time.